Guru Nation, welcome to another episode of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. You want to take a guess as to what episode number we're on, Chris?
320.
Close. 324 right now. Okay, episode 324 going up right now. It's the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. So this might be the last piece of content, certainly on the podcast, the last podcast you'll hear uh, until after Thanksgiving. So everybody have a happy Thanksgiving, safe Thanksgiving, enjoy Black Friday. If you're gonna spend money, make sure you buy our book, The Comprehensive Guide to Clinical Research, and the audiobook, The Comprehensive Guide to Clinical Research. Enjoy some football. I'm showing off because I'm a 49er fan. Chris lost last year in fantasy football, so he got me this jersey. He owed me. He lost a bet. My favorite player in the league, George Kittle. And we're gonna go
In
to
the
the Super
league?
Bowl.
Whoa. In the league? That's your favorite player?
Yeah, he's been my favorite player in the league since last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we'll go Super Bowl this year, and I'm not willing to make any more bets on that with you because I'm other than this jersey, I lost more bets than I won against you. But yeah, call to action next year, 2020. Okay, Guru Nation. We need how many people? We need like a 12 man and woman league for fantasy football. We
Mm-hmm.
will charge a fee, and then the winners get. I think we're gonna do like $100. What do you think is fair?
Sorry, Ronnie was being loud. I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
What do you think is fair? Like how much money for the entry fee for next year's Guru Nation fantasy football?
100 to 150, probably.
Okay, so if you're interested, email Chris at brkthru. We're gonna set it up now, or we're gonna start taking names now, creating a list. We already have like 4 people said they're interested, but let's get this list officially now, okay? And it'll be fun. So, anyways, Chris, welcome to episode 324.
Thank you, sir.
We're gonna talk about stakeholders. What the site owner needs to take care of, I believe, 4 stakeholders. The most important 4. There's more stakeholders, obviously, in the industry. I mean, I posted this on LinkedIn, and I got a bunch of nerds replying back. Actually, Dan, it's like 7, and I said, yes, I know it's 7 or more. If you want to start like going through the list, we can come up with like 20, maybe more. But the ones that are most important for you to focus on are 4 stakeholders that most site owners need to keep happy at all times. That is patients, physicians, sponsors, and employees. Okay. Of course, there's more, and we're going to dissect all of this. We're going to discuss, and we are going to do a webinar on this very topic to end the year, December 2019. So Carlos is going to watch this podcast and create slides for December webinar. You excited, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. Very excited.
So,
Overflowing with excitement.
right, me too. So it sounds simple, and it is simple. It's a simple concept. Keep those 4 stakeholders happy: patients, physicians, staff, and sponsor CROs. To actually pull it off is difficult, but it's a simple concept. That's my point. So, what do you think about this, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. With your 4. Um, I would agree with your audience that there's more, but those are the 4 primary.
Yes, there are more. So actually, I'm going to pull up the LinkedIn. So let's go one by one. Okay, let's go one by one. So patients. Okay, that's probably the easiest one to keep happy. Patients, if they want to do a study, they're going to have their own reasons. So if they're already in the study, it shouldn't be that hard to keep them happy. Okay, you return their calls when they reach out. You schedule them appropriately. You don't switch their appointments all the time because you don't want to inconvenience them. You use things like Uber Health. You provide entertainment at the site. You do everything you can, basically,
Hmm.
to keep the patients happy, right? What do you think about it? Anything you would like to expand upon on that idea?
No, I mean entertainment. You can provide incentives that are in accordance with the what the study will allow.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe feed them, offer them uh, drinks, make their visits as quick as possible when they do come to the site. Yeah, I mean, do what you can.
Okay, good. So that maybe we get that one out of the way. Patients, it should be, if you're a research site and you're not keeping your patients happy, you're not going to be in business long, right?
Oh, exactly.
Okay, so let's
Exactly
move
right.
on from patients. The patients, of course. Okay, next one, physicians. And if you're a site
A little more
owner,
difficult.
a lot more difficult. So, like, even if you are the site owner and you are the physician, if you ever want to grow and depend and not depend on just you, but other physicians, this applies to you as well, right?
Hmm.
Several of our clients fall into this category. They're the main PI, but then they want to work with other doctors. They want to have sub-Is. They want to eventually groom them to be PIs. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. What do you think about this idea of PIs? How do you keep PIs happy, Chris?
Are you asking?
Yeah, how do you keep PIs happy?
Well, I think first and foremost for a PI, it's going to be well, I shouldn't say that, but I think with a lot of them, it's going to be pay. So if you're unable to if you're paying them a percentage and you have no studies, well, they're not going to receive much pay. So lacking the payment, you're probably going to need to communicate with your PI and
Yeah.
discuss when they can expect to be paid, what the future looks like, and just keep them up to date on what's going on at the site, and hopefully that will curtail any any problems with the PI wanting to quit or go elsewhere, which is essentially quitting, um, by communicating what's going on at the site.
Okay, so most PIs leave, right? Most physicians, when they're new and they're starting to work with you, if they don't have experience with research, the biggest challenge is that okay, they want to leave, like they don't want to stay with you anymore for whatever reason. Either the study is too hard and you're not doing your job of taking care of them, or they just decide, hey, why do I need Dan and Chris? I can do this on my own. So then they want to start their own, or kind of a hybrid of those is they start to negotiate with you. Like they start to play hardball. Like, hey, you're only paying me X amount percent. I need more. And there's no option for you. I mean, if you want to work with them, you kind of have to deal with them, right? The best defense is to not be dependent on them.
Hmm. I would agree.
Okay, so keep the physicians happy. Monica brought up a good strategy uh, for this with like not bugging them all the time. You know how monitors and sponsors are always requesting things from PIs. Like they don't care about the PI's time or inconvenience. Like they're always requesting, hey, sign this, return this, do that. If your coordinator can sort of batch everything. Okay, so they're not just calling you every day or every 5 minutes. Batch everything and have them sign it in like a week, like every week, or like respond to these things. If the coordinator's not doing this and they're just sending everything to the PI in real time, the PI is going to get very frustrated, especially when they haven't seen any money yet, any income.
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree
Um,
with that.
so what do you think? What do you think about that? Anything to add?
No, I mean, unless it's an emergency, you should be batching things.
Okay.
And everything's an emergency to most CRAs, so you do have to wait these things.
So everything's an emergency to CRAs, and you, as the site owner, have to be able to differentiate what
Hmm.
is actually important versus what can wait.
Yep.
One of our business partners, Jim Parkhurst, um, he's this old school business dude, and he explained to me, and I'm probably gonna mess it up, but he explained to me like a grid, okay? And he says, this is urgent and important. This is urgent, not important. This is not urgent, but important. And this is not urgent, not important. Okay? So you got to kind of figure out, and if you're the site owner and you're not dealing directly with this aspect, you need to train your employees on how to decipher, okay, which one of those four categories does this go into? And
Hmm.
most things are not urgent and important in research. They could wait. You know, you've got a contract amendment that needs to be signed by the PI. That's important, not urgent. You've got a SAE report. Okay, that needs to be turned around. That's urgent and important. Okay, you got to sign off on the EDC system as the PI. May or may not be urgent, but it's definitely important depending on the time. So these are the things that you, with experience as the site owner, are going to learn how to navigate through to keep your PI happy as possible.
Hmm. I would agree
Anything
with
to
that.
add?
No, I
Am I
mean
missing something?
that's concise and well said.
Thank you. Now, and we're gonna go through these four things. So we're two of them. At the end, we're gonna talk about how this all like integrates and anything else we're missing. Okay, so that was the patients, the physicians. Now we get into the let's go sponsor CROs. That's kind of an easier one too. How do you keep how do you keep sponsors and CROs happy? Because everything we just said, like a lot of what we just said to keep your physicians happy, kind of works against what would keep a sponsor CRO happy. Because
Hmm.
a sponsor CRO, they send you something, everything's urgent and important. So
Yeah.
they don't want to see that you're categorizing their requests into all these different categories. They assume everything's urgent and important and will be taken care of immediately. And you have to balance that. Okay. Same thing with them. I think you have to categorize that into a little urgent, important, urgent, not important, what we just went through, right? With the sponsors. But the easiest way to keep sponsors happy, no matter when you respond to their request, within reason, is enrolling patients and enrolling a good amount of patients in your study, right? Like being a
Hmm.
moderate enroller in your trials. At least recruiting as many as you said you would recruit and enroll. That's if you don't do anything else, if you do that, you're going to keep sponsors happy. Even when they have requests that maybe you ignore. You can get away with that if you are um, enrolling patients. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, in order of priorities, is enrolling the patients that you said you would, and doing that in a timely manner. However, I would say when they do make requests, it's best if you meet their timelines in that regard too, if you can. Right. For example, you're returning an amendment, and they give you a timeline to meet. If you
Hmm.
can meet that timeline, that works in your benefit too. I think a lot less so than enrolling patients. I mean, it's not even close, right? Of the two, which are important. But if you can meet all of the requests in the time that they give allot you, I think that works in your benefit a little as well
Okay.
as a site or a site owner.
And then finally, keeping the staff happy, right? If you're a site owner, I mean, you're gonna reach the point where you're gonna want to hire people. Some people just want to work forever in their own business. That's fine. But for those that eventually want to hire someone and either grow the business or take a more passive approach, which is never passive unless you truly work on making it passive. You have to keep your coordinators happy. You got to keep all your staff happy. Patient recruiters, your sub-Is, your PIs are part of the staff, but their PIs are so important that they're its own category, right? But
Right.
the
You
staff,
have no study. You have no business if you have no BI.
that's right, that's right. So how we've done a webinar on managing employee workload. This is a more of a where art meets science type of discussion when it comes to how to keep employees happy. I think obviously you want to pay on the north end of fair, but it's not possible for most people, especially most startups. So the next best thing is to try to make work like a good environment and try to make it more laid back or whatever that employee wants, right? Like if that employee doesn't want to like dress business casual, they just want to dress like I don't know if I would let them wear a jersey, but like something like more casual. Let them do that. If they want to take Fridays off, okay, let them do that. If you can, I mean, it's your business. This is you're going to have to decide. But these are some strategies. If they want to come in later in the morning but work till later in the evening, let them do that. You have to give them options. When you can't compete with salary, that's the only other place you can compete is options, and then career development, which you can definitely compete there, right? Helping them achieve their goals in the industry, even if it means that they're going to leave you. Because guess what? Most employees do leave you. I mean, like 90%, right? They
Hmm.
have their own life. They have ambitions. So if you can't compete on salary, you kind of have to do all these things to remain competitive. If you don't want to do these things, then you have to overpay. That's my theory on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. You need to prioritize what's important to your employee, and then what of those priorities can you meet and can you not meet,
That's
and
right.
you have to do what you can.
I'm really a fan of the career development because we're always in forever startup mode. We're always opening new clinics. We always keep our clinics kind of small. So we're rarely able to compete on salary with any of our staff. But
Hmm.
where we probably excel is career development and overall culture. So, just like you are supposed to, when you're applying for studies as a site, you're supposed to put yourself in the sponsor's shoe and think, okay, what does this sponsor want? Why would they want me as a site? Why do they need my site? And then you get a sell, and we're going to get into sales right now. You got to put yourself in the shoes of your employee as well. If you can't compete with salary, right? Like what's going to keep them from somebody else grabbing them, right? Uh, put yourself in their shoes. Okay, and the only way to get the authentic answer from them is to get them comfortable enough to communicate with you. This is my career aspirations. And it takes a long time to get them comfortable with you because most employees, when you have these conversations, they just say what they think you want to hear. Okay, but if you show you're genuine and let them be honest and say, hey, I'm going to help you achieve that with all my power and might, as much as I can do, help you achieve that goal. In exchange, 3 to 5 years with me here. Is that fair? So something like that, something along those lines is the way to keep employees happy if you don't necessarily have the means to pay the most in your industry.
Yeah, and I really think it's fairly simple. If if your employee hates coming to work, you're going to have to pay them substantially more to come to work, and vice versa. If they like coming to work, or at least they don't dread it, then I think you don't necessarily have to pay them nearly as much as you would otherwise.
Mm. Mm. I
I think
do
it
like
really,
that.
I think it just boils down to that for the most part. But certainly the other things that you mentioned certainly help. Um, an employee value their time with you as an employer.
Yeah, and so this is all the common theme of all these four stakeholders, and we'll get into who we missed, but the common theme of all of this is persuasion, okay? Or some
Mhm.
would refer to as sales, but since that's a dirty word for a lot of people, persuasion, influence. all these stakeholders we mentioned, okay, patients, you got to persuade them why they should be in the study, why should they continue, as long as it's safe for them and the PI thinks it's safe, why they should continue, why they should refer their friends to do the studies. The physicians, why should they work with you? Why should they continue to work with you? What's in it for them? The sponsors, why should they choose you? Put your best foot forward. A lot of people, when it comes to the sponsors, lead with their weaknesses. You know, when a sponsor asks them for information on a form, like a facility form, or even like more generic, a site profile form, these people freak out. They don't know what to put, and you don't put your weaknesses. You put your strengths. If you want to put your weaknesses, you won't get the study. So you can do that too if you don't want the study, but you put your strengths. What are your
Hmm.
strengths? Are you a CRA? So you're going to do QA. That's a very important thing. A lot of these sites out here don't know what they're doing. So sponsor sees you as a CRA or as someone with a CRA background. You don't need to tell them you're currently a CRA. Someone who knows what a CRA looks for and understands quality, that's a selling point. Or your database, that's a selling point. Or your research naive patients, or the fact that your PI is in the site with you 24/7 because that's their office. That's persuasion. Okay. Same thing with the employees. You got to show them that coming into work for you is in their best interest long term as well.
Hmm.
So that's all I got to say about this. You guys need to get better at being salespeople um, because
Well,
most
now
people,
some of them may be very good at sales. They just need to be capable of demonstrating this.
that's right. That's right. Most site owners that are successful are good at all these things. Okay. And if you take care of these four stakeholders, all the other ones that you guys mentioned on LinkedIn, and Chris is, I'm sure, is going to bring it up. Somebody said regulators, you got to keep them happy. But those are all taken care of if you take care of these four things. That's why I don't really include them because you
Mhm.
take care of these four things, then by default, all the rest are going to be happy as well.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. Yeah.
So just to appease the people, who are we missing from these stakeholders?
Um, so what you're asking is what, other than the four that you've mentioned, are the others?
Mm-hmm.
Well, your other, I think you have other. A lot of people are going to have other business partners, right? They're not doing this in and of themselves.
Very good.
So you certainly need to work with those other people that are involved.
Correct.
Um, oftentimes, you're going to have other doctors, so sub-Is.
Okay.
Uh, let's see, what else might you have?
Somebody
Uh,
mentioned IRBs on LinkedIn.
sure. Um, but
Vendors, you don't really need to keep vendors happy, but maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, Dan. I mean, we've lost study because of the vendor.
So very good, Chris. Very good. So, okay, there you go. Now we're getting somewhere.
So yeah, certainly. I mean,
How did we lose the study? Explain. Because these podcasts, we can actually um, go more in depth on these topics.
so they had a certain requirement that needed to be met, and at one of our sites, we um, were not meeting that requirement. I think the coordinators, they were aware of this requirement, but it also harmed the ability to enroll patients. It's not an inclusion exclusion criteria, mind you. Um, it was just a certain requirement that needed to be met. And at the same time, meeting this requirement dealt a blow to recruiting patients or enrolling patients.
Yeah,
And I think,
it's like what you did.
if I recall correctly, the coordinators were not necessarily meeting this requirement.
Yeah, they were. This vendor was put in charge of doing a certain thing prior to patients being randomized.
Hmm.
This vendor was not getting back to us, and we didn't have much longer to be able to randomize. The PI wanted them randomized, and so that's when the conflicting interest came in. Like the vendor, of course, they had a job to do. The sponsor put them there, but the vendor was working kind of against the sponsor in this case. And so we ended up doing what our PI thought was the right thing to do and randomize the patient without the vendor because we went through the IE criteria a bunch of times. And the PI, at the end of the day, is in charge of the study, said, hey, we need to randomize. And then the sponsor got upset because the vendor made a big deal about it. Not because the sponsor didn't want us to do that, but the vendor made a big deal about it to the sponsor, right? So you
Mhm.
gotta. There are other stakeholders. I'm glad you brought that up, Chris.
Sure, sure. So, yeah, you absolutely need to keep them happy. But if you're keeping the sponsor happy, you're most likely keeping the other stakeholders happy as well, vendors in this example.
That's right. Excellent. Okay, very good. Are we missing anything? Anyone?
Well,
Anyone
I'm sure we
important?
are. I'm sure we are. It's just
Business
not coming to mind
partner,
at the moment.
business partner, vendor, IRB, regulators.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess that's good enough, right?
Sure. But I
I'm
mean,
good enough.
CRAs, of course, would be in this example. But again, if you're keeping your CROs or sponsors happy, you're keeping the CRAs happy as well.
Yeah, I lump in the CRAs in that category of CRO sponsor.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. You're right. Unfortunately, we've been proven the opposite when I've been told by many a CRA that they're not happy with their key opinion leader sites, and the sponsors keep giving them studies. So
Mm,
may not
sure.
even be the most important on the category, but I put the CRAs in there with the CRO sponsor category.
But a KOL is a completely different animal, I think.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
where the sponsors have a reason they want those KOLs involved, and it
Yeah,
makes sense. I mean,
that's a whole nother podcast for another day.
right?
Very good, Chris. I think this was a fantastic webinar. We have to get on a call in 10 minutes.
Yes, we do.
And everybody have a great Thanksgiving. And let us know what you think about this. And then let us know if you want to do our fantasy football league next year, 2020 fantasy football. I know it only applies to like probably 20% of you listeners and viewers, but for those 20% that are interested, email Chris at brkpha.org and we'll get you in and we'll do this. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Talk to you later.